Hey book friends, what's up? How's it going? Thanks so much for stopping by my channel today. I'm doing two books in this video. It's kind of like a prologue and then the actual book. The prologue gives you a little background as to the characters of the book and where the storyline is kind of starting, and then you get the actual book. This is the second book that I have read by this author. If you include the little prologue, then I guess it's 2.5 books. And I also did a video on the first book of hers that I read, which I will include in the comments below. The author whose books we're going to talk about today is Britt. The book that I read previous to this was Severance. I know she has one book before that, which is Rapture. I'm dying to read that one. And then she has this Duet, which we are going to talk about today. Can I just say, her covers are absolutely gorgeous. They fit. I mean, of course, authors pick covers that fit with their books, right? But there's something about her covers and her images that are just amazing. I think it's because of what she does for her day job. She is a music journalist in LA, which is, you know, so interesting from a Midwestern girl. I can tell that she's a real artist by the way she writes, by her book covers. It was not lost on me. So the prologue is called Adrenaline 1999, and it basically gives you a little bit of backstory and catches you up quickly. Final Serenade, the first book, and then there's actually going to be another book after it, which is called One Last Verse. One Last Verse, I think, will be coming out in May. I will definitely be doing a video on that as well. So Adrenaline 99 gives you a look back into Frankie Blade, who is one of the main characters in the Final Serenade, at his life and his band, where he met his band members, a little bit about his past, about his upbringing, and about the band that he's the frontman for, which is called Hall Affinity. It is one of the most successful bands in the world, and Final Serenade starts where Hall Infinity is coming back after being on, I think it's a 7-year hiatus. This story is a bit of an age gap, rock star romance. Rock star romances are quickly becoming some of my favorites. Of course, I just talked about Dirty Rock by Vicki James. I've read a few rock star romances, and when they're done right, oh my gosh, it's like fangirl heaven. Something I loved about this book is, which was very obvious to me because I knew a little bit about what she does for a living, is how music is so woven into this story. And I myself, I would never say like I'm any sort of expert. I don't have that much of a wide variety of music that I've loved, but my brother was a musician and he loved all kinds of music, and I was introduced to so much music at a young age because he was 7 years older than me. He loved Kiss, he loved T-Rex, but then he also loved Pink, and he also loved Garbage. He would just play all kinds of music all the time. My husband also is a huge music guy. He was a punker in his teenage years. He loves Southern rock. He loves, the only thing, honestly, that he doesn't like, that he doesn't really get his head around, is country music. He likes a bit of jazz. She mentions Jeff Buckley in this book. That's one of my husband's favorites. He loves everything. So I feel, and he has transferred that love of all different kinds of music and music in general to our kids. And I'm kind of the lone one out because they all like are constantly finding new music and talking about it, and I'm just kind of an observant, but that's okay, that's fine. I guess what I'm trying to say is music is a huge part of our life and our family, and so I really appreciated that in this book as well. Some of the first words on these pages was like she stuck a bullseye right on my forehead, in that it's a quote from Trent Reznor. My husband introduced me to Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails when we started dating. We started dating a really long time ago, and Pretty Hate Machine had just come out right before that. And he loved it. He was obsessed with early Nine Inch Nails. We kind of fell in love to that album. So when Cassie, the other main character in this story, talks about one of Hall Infinity's albums that was so much part of her life and her first heartbreak and all of this, I understood what she was talking about, because that's what Pretty Hate Machine was in some ways to my husband and mine's early relationship. And funny thing about it as well is that we actually named our son Trent after Trent Reznor. We love the name. That album was so important to us. So starting the book this way, I was like, okay, let me settle in here. I know I'm gonna like it. Frankie Blade, which is his stage name, his real name is Frank Wallace, is the quintessential rock star. He's at a point in his life where he is around 30. He has had a catastrophic event in his life that took him out of his career for 7 years. And the book starts where they're trying to come back. And they're going to put out their first album in that length of time. I really liked Frank. I'm glad, and when you read the book, you'll understand what I mean, that this book is about Frank. It's not about Frankie. Frankie is who he is on stage. Frankie is who he is with his bandmates. But when he's with Cassie, he's Frank. And I loved that because I could see the difference. And to me, I like that part of that story. I was very comfortable with that part of his character. Cassie, I adored from the get-go. Cassie is a younger 20s music journalist in LA. She is wise beyond her years. She is an old soul. She has a maturity about her. She writes for a online magazine about the music industry in LA. And I thought it was so interesting that Frank is a man of few words in this book. There's definitely dialogue exchanged between them, but he's just very reserved, which is completely the opposite as he is when he's on stage, but he can be that way with her. He doesn't say something unless he means it. And I thought that was so interesting that Cassie writes words for a living. That's what she makes her livelihood with. And it was something that I picked up on early on, that they were both in different ways very intentional with their words. Cassie and her partner Levi at the magazine are hoping to land the first interview, one of the first interview spots with Hall Infinity. And she has a couple of ins so that she knows that she could, some favors she could call in to get that. But she also is building her career on the type of journalist that she is. And so she wants to be asked. She wants to be one of the big players, even though they're a smaller magazine. Okay, so I'm gonna put my glasses on. I was gonna not, but this is how Cassie describes herself. I was a 21-year-old tomboy with too much drive, a big mouth, minimum makeup, a cute pixie cut, and fresh music-themed tats on my arm. I fit in, I had the look, and I was smart and professional beyond my years. I smiled, I played nice, shook hands, and never flirted. My goal was to write memories, real accounts about real people, not some manufactured bullshit. Cassie is also a huge fan of this band. And the magnetism that any frontman rock star has, we all know what it's like, right? So what she feels about being able to interview them as a journalist is like over here, and then oh my gosh, fangirling because they were her favorite band and she loves them. And now all of a sudden that's being put together and she's gonna go interview them. And she's trying to figure out how to be both somebody who's respectful and a good interviewer, but yet ask the questions that all the fangirl in her wants to ask. This is what she talks about how she interviews people. Establishing a relationship with a complete stranger in under 30 seconds was a gift, my gift, the one that fed me and paid my bills. Why my mind was suddenly banking with terror was a brain twister to me. When we were all set, Levi indulged himself with a free energy drink and I grabbed a water. So she's sitting down and she's totally nervous. Because of what Cassie does for a living, she has a confidence about her when she meets celebrities. My husband actually works in the film industry, and it's funny because people are always like, oh my God, that's so cool. Have you met this person, that person? And he's like, uh-huh. Like for him, it's work. And when he goes to work, he understands that they all work on the same team and they all need to work together and do their jobs to have the finished product. So for him, it's work. He doesn't get starstruck. He's worked with some amazing actors, whereas I'm back here and I'm like, oh my God, wait, who, what? Oh my gosh. And I'm all excited and I'm like, sneak a picture, you know? And he's very professional. He never does that. So I really understood Cassie and connected with her on a level because I'm married to somebody that's just like her, but yet what it's like for that person to be in front of somebody that they've idolized, listened to, connected with their whole lives. And how do you feel about that? How do you maintain your professionalism and yet be a fan? Final Serenade is told by Cassie's perspective. We get a majority of it from her. Of course, there's dialogue and we get to know Frank, but we're reading it from Cassie's perspective. And I loved reading when they sat down and she actually interviewed Frankie actually, because she's like, oh my God, my pants were too tight and I was sweating and I was like being affected by his pheromones. And these are all the things that a fan would feel, right? And yet there were so many layers. It was artist to journalist. It was fan to, performer, I guess you could say. And you know what else it was? It was woman to man. And it was whole crap. Like, I'm feeling all these feelings because his magnetism is off the charts. That's why he's a successful musician. But as a woman, the way he was affecting her and her heartbeat and everything kind of took her a little bit by surprise. I loved that they seemed to fit very easily. There was a quiet comfort as an undercurrent that I felt reading their story. And I mean that by saying it was definitely funny at times. There's great dialogue. It's very sexy at times. They have tons of chemistry. They're passionate. But there was this undercurrent of them seeing each other. Like I said, peeling back the layers of how they met and who they were. Peeling back those layers and just being Cassie meeting Frank, not Frankie, Frank, and getting to know each other. That where they are in their lives, they were like ready for each other. And I felt that organically, the way Natalia wrote them. And I loved that. It wasn't the crazy, obnoxious rock star, because that's not where Frank was in his life. He had been that before. And this book didn't take place then. It's taking place now, where he's been on hiatus. He's had a catastrophic event happen in his life that took him away from his career. And he's trying to figure out if he can salvage his career, if he can go back to any semblance of a career. But they have this underlying respect because they both understand the world that they both work in. And so they knew that, and they never asked of the other something that they weren't willing to give themselves. So there's a maturity to their trying to have a relationship. And yet there are these little peaks of Frankie the rock star in it and Cassie the journalist, because Cassie talks about often how being in a relationship with him goes against every professional limitation she put on herself. And that she never flirted. She never dated. She never got drunk at events. She always dressed professionally. She's built her career on being someone they could count on and someone they could trust and someone they want to talk to. She's not a tabloid. The magazine she works for isn't a tabloid. They're not risque. They're not posting bad pictures. They're not TMZ, basically. So it goes against all of her professionalism to actually go on a date with him and then to continue dating him. And for Frank, he wants to keep her a secret. He wants to shield her from everything that being with Frankie brings. And yet there's these times where it just can't help but infiltrate their relationship. It was so easy to fall in love right along with them. I mean, Frank is swoony and Cassie is a girl's girl who you just root for and you connect with and you like her. She's good stock, you know? But I started to feel this build and I was like, oh my gosh, what's it going to be? And it actually wasn't where this book stops, wasn't anywhere where I thought we were going. It was a total surprise to me. And once it happened, I was like, oh, it was right there the whole time. I just wasn't focusing on it because I thought it was going to be something else. So I loved that she surprised me at the end of this book. It is a cliffhanger, most definitely. Ugh, I know authors love it, but I know me as a reader, I'm like, I want it, give it to me now. But thank goodness we don't have to wait too long for the next book. Let me know if you have read any of Natalia's other books in the comments below. Definitely stay tuned for my video on the next book, which is titled One Last Verse. You can pre-order it on Amazon right now. I just looked and it's actually coming out May 14th. Make sure you stay tuned for that. Until then, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.